All right, well, this time I have notes, so we have a thing we're gonna do. This is very exciting.
Because people have things they want to know.
People have things they want to know, and people have said things, and we want to respond to the people who have said things to us. It's only the people who haven't said things to us that we're gonna completely ignore.
Right.
For the moment, anyway. So, welcome back to the Barnack Hour. It's my friend Keith Spiro. I'm Dan Tamarkin, and we're here to talk about photography and Leica cameras.
For exactly 1 hour, maybe.
Go. Yeah, well, that's the nice thing is the Barnack Hour.
We used that joke last time. I don't know that they'll laugh this time.
I don't think they will either, but they'll let us know when our time is up, I'm sure. Photographic therapy, entertainment and information, not necessarily in that order. Now, we got a lot of suggestions on topics. We got a lot of different opinions, and we're going to try to address them all, although we won't be able to do it in this episode. But rest assured, if you've made a comment or suggestion...
We've been renewed?
We've been renewed, right. That's right.
Awesome.
We got picked up. But first, I kind of want to pick up where we left off last time, where we talked about books that we're reading and monographs, and I showed some stuff that I was reading, but I didn't really give you much of a chance to show what you're reading, and you brought some books in, Keith. You brought a couple of my favorite books.
Monographs are great because there's few words. You know?
That's right, there's very few words.
It's very easy to read them.
Right, I failed English all 7 years of high school, so that's good for me.
Well, I've got 3 books today.
Okay.
So we'll start with The Americans.
This is terrific, Robert
Right?
Frank.
Yeah. So I think that any photographer has to grab a copy of this and at least take a look if you're into just documentary, street, that type of thing.
He was terrific. You got this recently, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty new copy.
Yeah, this is a reprint of the original Americans, Robert Frank's fantastic book, with an introduction by Jack Kerouac, which is kind of interesting. Also, the printing in this book is fantastic. Not all editions of subsequent editions of this book have been printed very well, but this is really very well done. We have one here in the gallery so that people can check it out. But this is a very important work, I think, for any photographer, for street photographers and for portrait photographers. Do you have a favorite picture of his, or is there?
Actually, the one on the front cover.
The one on the cover. Yeah. This is the kind of picture that, when we do, well, right? This is the kind of picture, I don't know if he knows what I'm going to say, but this is the kind of picture that when we're doing Leica academies or workshops, if you turn in a picture like this, you get booed out the, no. They're very good and very supportive and nurturing.
It's a very supportive, aggressive boo.
It's a very supportive and aggressive boo.
Nonetheless.
But it's like, okay, guy or gal, why'd you take that picture? Like, what's going on there? So there is some question about what makes a good photograph, and I don't think that we're really going to get into that, are we?
I like to, well, no.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
really
the Barnack
sure.
Hour, not the Barnack Week. We're kind of catching up from last time where I didn't really show any Arthur Meyerson, and
We're still doing the book reports?
Let's do the book. Let's keep going with the book reports.
So the second book I'm going to bring to the table is The Almighty World, the photographs of Roger Fenton, 1852 to 1860. So this is kind of interesting because I like to sometimes look at something very historic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just learn from it. And it isn't that I would necessarily ever do this type of photography, but this guy, I love let's see here if I can find the reading that I want to.
Yeah.
After studying law and painting, Fenton took up the camera in 1851, immediately began to produce highly original images, and then they go into what types he mastered. Genres of architectural photography, landscape, portrait, still life, reportage, all these different things.
Tableau vivant.
Yeah,
I love that. I don't know what it means necessarily, but I love that.
That's where I started, is tableau vivant.
Tableau vivant. This book is from Keith's collection. I've never seen this before. I mean, I know who Fenton
So you got these really interesting, you have these really interesting images that, he did all this different stuff, and everything from, in the 1850s, these old, yeah.
Ooh, I love this one too, yeah.
And then also, portraits, and let's see, look at that, that's classic.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I've never seen this before.
I don't wear a top hat when I go fishing, but I don't go fishing that often, so.
Well, maybe you should. Wait, now I want to look through this too.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at
I've never seen
old.
this.
The images that probably wouldn't do photography like that, but
Look how sharp this is.
I don't think he was using a Leica, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know, he was using a large wet plate
sure
camera with a big
1952.
bellows or something. Holy smokes, that just jumped right out at me. That's like, what do they call that now? Micro contrast.
So
These
England.
are terrific.
He was in England.
He was in England. These are terrific. So whatever it is that inspires you, but in particular, if it's Fenton, like I'm going to run out and get one of these. I think it's fabulous. Whatever it is that inspires you, whether it's something like The Americans or a historic monograph book like Fenton's, go pick them up, read them, check them out. I mean, they're terrific. So what else did you bring?
Okay,
So
last book for the book report, and you know, I think it's just kind of whoever inspires you. But this is Roberto Salas's latest book.
Salas, I haven't seen this one either.
Yeah, and so it's have a look. And so Roberto Salas is in one of these unique situations. He was with Korda and all of those revolutionary photographers.
Oh, I love this picture of him as a young man with his Leicas in Cuba in the late 50s.
Yeah, and he had opportunities and access that very few people got in Cuba to the revolution, and to see how Cuba has changed over the years.
He was standing right next to Korda when Korda took the famous photograph of Che Guevara that we all know so well, that's been stylized in so many different ways.
Yeah.
He used the Leica 3F and he used the Leica M3, but like you say, he had access to Cuba and to people in Cuba, the revolutionaries, that no one else did. And portraits of ordinary Cubans in kind of this stylized way. Man, I'm excited to see this.
So
I think he's
this
a
book
great
was a
photographer.
result of a show that he had at one of the larger museums there in Cuba. So
Yeah, terrific. Yeah, a lot of these I haven't seen before, so I love it. I want to study this one too. Even though I'm very familiar with his work, as I am also with, to a certain extent, with Robert Frank, a good monograph shows you something new every time you open the book, I think. And I'm also the kind of person, maybe I'm a simpleton, but I'm the kind of person who can sit and stare at a photograph for like 40 minutes.
this is interesting. This is interesting because you should show this picture.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
Holy smokes.
this book from front to back really shows how he changed throughout the years and what he was interested in, because this is obviously very digitally altered and
right.
And played with, and he became interested in those type of things. So he started out with a roll of black and white film in a jungle with an M something,
a 3F and an M3.
Yeah, and now he's digitally enhancing these.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so.
I've seen some of this stuff of his, but not these ones in particular. He tells a story. This one I've seen. I like this one a lot. And he tells a story about when he was in Cuba. When they were in the field, they were photographing Fidel Castro and the revolutionaries. And he says, we didn't really have everything that we needed to handle our negatives and to develop the film. And so we'd sometimes, rather than properly drying the film, we'd just take a sponge and run it right down the negative, which can ruin negatives. But he tells a lot of very interesting stories about being in the field.
So many of his negatives and work is gone because they were doing it on the fly for the newspaper.
That's right.
Nobody kept track of any of that stuff. Once it went to print, that was it. Nobody had to worry about it.
He
It
says,
was on to the next day.
That's right. It was on to the next day. He says that his big break came on a Tuesday, and he took a photograph of the Statue of Liberty. Let me see if I can find it. And he said his big break came not because he took this picture of the statue, because on that Tuesday nobody was born, nobody died, there was nobody new, there was no other news.
Right.
Images from memory, photographs by Roberto Salas. And his father, thanks buddy, his father, what was his father's name? Osvaldo Salas made some very famous photographs of the Cuban revolutionaries. And also, he did baseball cards. Did he?
Oh no, I didn't know
I think that's what Roberto
maybe.
said, is that he took some pictures of the Yankees and some of them wound up on baseball cards. I don't know if you ever got credited, but that would be kind of fun to find a baseball card that Salas' father took. That's kind of cool.
I mean, I think he was he was kind of a day-to-day photographer.
Yeah.
Just trying to make a living.
Right, weddings, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, whatever you have, like we all do.
So I think does that close book report?
That's the book report. What I did on my summer vacation.
The Barnack book report.
So maybe what we should do is we should have a more like intellectual and serious version of this show and just call it the Barnack Report.
That sounds really f***ing boring.
I know, doesn't it?
Sorry.
That's all right. We'll beep you. Are you kidding me? How many? I don't know how many F-bombs I dropped last time, but
There
it was
were
a
a
lot.
few.
It was a lot.
Sure.
So I got to go to my notes because I have notes.
What are all these cameras for?
All right. So last time I said lots of things.
Do we need to run like a corrections at the end in the credits?
This is going to be
like
like
all of the things that you did wrong.
This is going to be a segment for every show. It's what I f***ed up the last show. And so I left you hanging about the books.
Barnack Hour f***ups.
That's right. Okay, so here's one of the comments. We got a bunch of great comments. One of the comments was from a gentleman in Italy who I know from just from like social media and whatnot, but I don't think we've ever communicated before. And one of the things he said to me was, he watched the video and he liked it, which I'm glad. Thank you very much for watching and for commenting.
You're assuming he's watching again.
Right, he might have just...
That's a big assumption.
Yeah, that's a big assumption. But I did say that I was grateful for his comment because one of the things I said last time was I described a wartime gray paint camera, and I had talked about it was painted at the end of the Second World War because they ran out of chrome, which had long been the thinking. And writers about Leicas, such as Jim Lager and Rogliati and some of these other folks, had suggested that maybe these cameras had been painted because there wasn't enough resources for chrome. But this collector and friend in Italy corrected me. Exactly. So as promised, I do not know everything, and so I want to set the record straight. I know, it's a shocker. I want to set the record straight. The reason it's come to light through research from this gentleman as well as many other people all around the world that these gray paint or gray lacquer or gray enamel cameras were made gray because the Army asked for them that way. Because it's like the same gray as the uniform, so that when a soldier was in the field, it wouldn't like flash and catch on the sunlight and signal their position. Initially, it was believed that the gray paint was due to a lack of chrome, but later it was denied by new research. The cameras were instead painted gray at the request of the Army because the chrome could shine in the sun and unintentionally signal the presence of soldiers to the enemy. In fact, the coloring is very similar to the uniforms of the soldiers in both the Luftwaffe and the Wehrmacht, which were the Air Force and the ground forces in Germany in the Second World War. So we can say that all the gray Leicas were produced for military use, which is kind of interesting because some of them, which is very interesting to me because some of them don't have any military markings like the K here, and those have traditionally been known as civilian cameras. Well, my father, who's a Leica aficionado and who taught me an awful lot, he always would shake his head whenever I would say civilian. So sometimes father does know best. Anyway.
And for that, we at the Barnack Hour apologize.
Sorry. We got it wrong. And I'm sure there's other stuff that we're going to get wrong. But anyway, so that's our gray paint. That's our gray paint admission.
At some point, the what we got wrong segment will be so long, it'll have to be its own special episode.
It'll outweigh the stuff we get right.
There we go.